Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Omni Viewer, and welcome to Genre Bender's Obscurities and Flawed Gems, where we look at the best stuff you've never heard of. Thanks to Godzilla Minus One, everybody now knows the name Takashi Yamazaki. Although he was already a well-known and prolific director in his native Japan long before then. In fact, America was introduced to Yamazaki many years ago, but that introduction went largely unnoticed. I speak, of course, of Returner. It's October 2002. A hitman known only as Miyamoto is disrupting an illegal deal on the docks when he accidentally shoots a teenage girl he wasn't expecting to be there. Surprisingly, as well as fortunately, the girl survives thanks to a metal plate in her jacket. Her name is Millie, and she wants to hire Miyamoto for a job that's almost too crazy to believe. Millie claims to be from the year 2084, but her timeline is bleak. Mankind is being wiped out by an invading alien race they call the Dagra, and the war is basically lost. Humanity's only hope was to send someone back in time to prevent the war from ever happening, hence why Millie is here. She only has 2 days to prevent the war, which requires her to find a crashed Dagra scout ship and prevent it from summoning the mothership. Convincing Miyamoto that she's telling the truth is the least of her problems, as the crashed ship has also caught the attention of Mizoguchi, a mobster connected to the Chinese triads who has his own intentions for the recovered alien tech. There was some controversy on TwitX a few months back about how Takashi Yamazaki said he doesn't prioritize politics and messaging when he makes movies. Now, if you don't know why this would be considered a controversial take, you deserve congratulations because your brain is still functioning rationally. It was the irrational people who got upset about it because they've been brainwashed to believe that all art is political, and artists have a responsibility to use their work for pushing agendas. Well, as long as they're the approved agendas, anyway. Admittedly, it wasn't much of a controversy. The people who were calling Yamazaki a fascist for having the gall to not shove political opinions down people's throats were very quickly shut down. However, if you don't think he was being honest because of how loaded Godzilla Minus One is, Returner might change your mind. This has wound up being a shorter video than I usually do because Returner isn't a very complex or thematically rich movie. Instead, it's a very straightforward sci-fi action flick. But as I stated recently, just being entertainment for its own sake is not a bad thing. Indeed, Returner is a very enjoyable movie, albeit a familiar one. You can tell that this movie was made in 2002 because it contains a lot of popular trends from that era. Miyamoto dresses like he just walked off the set of The Matrix, and as if that weren't enough, Millie has a super speed device that allows a few bullet time sequences to occur. The plot, as I'm sure you guessed, takes a few cues from the Terminator franchise, what with the idea of going back in time to prevent the end of the world. You might think the transforming ships of the Dagra are lifted from the Michael Bay Transformers movies, but Returner actually beat those to the punch by 5 years. Now, I did say the movie feels familiar, but you'll notice I did not say it was derivative. Tropes and trends might abound, but I would never refer to Returner as a ripoff. The movie has its own identity thanks to the dynamic of our three leads. Miyamoto could have been just a generic gun-toting action hero, but he has a tragic past that drives him to do what he does. His devil-may-care attitude simply masks how much he really does care. Millie, as it turns out, was not the original choice to go back in time, and when you combine this with her youth, she's got the odds stacked against her. She hasn't got the training or experience to save the world, but she's scrappy and determined, which is enough to keep her going. Mizoguchi, meanwhile, is a totally irredeemable villain. He establishes right off the bat that he's a monster when we see he's not only trafficking children, but he also kills one in cold blood just so the rest of them will stop crying. From that point on, we know he's the kind of bad guy we want to see beaten without mercy. Seeing these three play off each other as the plot escalates is what makes the movie special, as they have a great deal of chemistry between them. And of course I would be remiss not to mention Miyamoto's informant and arms dealer, Gigi Tang, an old woman who gets one of the coolest kills in the whole movie. She's not in it too much, but you'll definitely remember her by the end. The sci-fi element remains fairly downplayed for the most part. Time travel is what sets the plot in motion, there's a looming alien invasion, and Millie has a cool piece of future tech on her, but that's about the extent of it. Similar to how Godzilla Minus One can be described as a historical drama with a kaiju, Returner can be described as an action movie with sci-fi trappings rather than a sci-fi movie with action. This is ultimately a boon for the movie since it puts a limit on the number of times The Matrix can be imitated. Like I said, the movie is familiar but not derivative, and that's the reason why. So is there anything deeper to it at all? Not really, although there is a recurring motif about the next generation. The movie frequently shows children in danger. Miyamoto's backstory involves his childhood friend being kidnapped and murdered by Mizoguchi, who you may recall we already knew was a child trafficker from his introductory scene. Millie is only 14 years old, and she's taking the ultimate risk to try saving the world. Even the crashed Dagra is implied to be a lost child who just wants to go home. Very E.T.-esque, if you will. That motif is not accidental, of course. The whole movie is about trying to prevent an apocalyptic future, and who is that for if not for our children? Ergo, the idea of saving the future is emphasized by showing a future generation in peril. Now, it's not an especially deep theme, but it is still a theme, and it does the job of making the movie more intriguing. In conclusion, Returner is an overall enjoyable flick. It's just deep enough to be interesting, incorporates trends without leaning too heavily on them, and has some strong performances to keep you engaged. If you enjoyed Godzilla Minus One and you're looking for other Yamazaki movies to get into, Returner would be a good place to start. If you can track it down, of course. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off. Okay, now we can talk about Godzilla Minus One. Stay tuned in the very near future, assuming the aliens don't show up first.